We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new style, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, April 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kyle.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you, and also Tunes with us today.
Happy birthday.
Happy Thursday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So as we head towards the end of the work week, we're turning our attention to the global stage. So President Lee is continuing his overseas tour, drawing attention both at home and abroad. And these high-level visits often signal key diplomatic priorities and economic goals for the country. So to start us off, can you tell us a bit about President Lee's trip to India and Vietnam, Jian?
Of course. Well, let me quickly go over President Lee's recent overseas trip. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung departed Korea on the 19th for a 6-day overseas trip to Vietnam and India as well. He spent 3 days, first of all, in India, and now he is in Vietnam until the 24th. In India, he met Prime Minister Narendra Modi to discuss strategic cooperation, including defense, energy, and supply chains. He then traveled to Hanoi on the 21st for the second leg of his visit. In Vietnam, he held a summit with Vietnamese top leader and General Secretary of the Communist Party, To Lam, and they focused on strengthening strategic and economic ties amid growing global uncertainty. Many say this move actually could further strengthen our ties to both countries, and after 34 years of close partnership with Vietnam, of course. And overall, this visit highlights Korea's push for stronger partnerships, stronger ties, and long-term economic stability as well.
And one of my personal favorite moments from the trip was a selfie, I don't know if you saw, between the two leaders of India and Korea, and also with Han-sung. With actually, the Galaxy phone was made from a factory in India.
That's
so that was
right.
also quite meaningful. So do you have anything to add to this?
Of course. During this president's visit, not only government officials, but also the heads of major Korean companies like Samsung, LG, and Hyundai are visiting these countries. They are expected to inspect local manufacturing facilities, meet with top leaders, and hold discussions to explore cooperations with local businesses.
Right. So that really underscores how this trip goes beyond diplomacy. It's a coordinated push involving both government and big business to deepen strategic and economic ties. And it also reflects Korea's efforts to secure supply chains and expand its footprint in two of Asia's fastest growing markets. And that's why we're going to talk more about this. But first, let's take a look at the screen. President Lee Jae-myung's visits to India and Vietnam are putting a spotlight on Korea's deepening ties with both countries. Beyond long-standing diplomatic relations, these connections are also reflected in the growing number of Indian and Vietnamese residents building lives here in Korea. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the lives of Indians and Vietnamese living in Korea, along with the broader experiences and challenges faced by foreigners here, as well as some practical tips for those hoping to start a life in Korea themselves. Just as we saw in the video, Korea's ties with these countries go far beyond diplomacy. They're part of everyday life. So let's take a closer look at just how active these exchanges really are. So how strong exactly are Korea's ties with Vietnam and India today, Juyeon?
It's quite strong, active, and continuing to grow currently. Well, Vietnam in particular, I'll cover Vietnam first. Well, Vietnam has been one of Korea's top three trading partners for 4 consecutive years, and the numbers tell the story. In fact, bilateral trade has grown nearly 180 times, from just $500 million back in 1992 to around $95 billion today. And also beyond economics, the cultural exchanges are equally strong, with Vietnamese food and culture becoming very familiar to Koreans. I'm sure that we can easily name more than several Vietnamese dishes right now. And also population destinations like Da Nang and Nha Trang are widely visited. That Da Nang is known as Gyeonggi-do Da Nang City. Why is it? First of all, Gyeonggi-do is a province surrounding Seoul, and it is often seen as an extension of the capital. And from the airport, the plane to city streets, Korean can be heard almost everywhere. hence the nickname. And in Penang, I found myself when I visited there last year, I asked Koreans for directions more than the locals. So yeah,
Wow.
it's actually next door right now.
That's how many, I guess, Koreans are currently
So
in
many
Vietnam
Koreans.
anytime you go there. So that really shows how deeply embedded Vietnam has become in both Korea's economy and culture. And now turning to India, another key partner with a long-standing relationship. So how would you describe Korea's ties with India, Kyle?
Of course. Korea's relationship with India has best described as strategic, long-term, and still full of untapped potential. Historically, Korea was one of the earliest investors in India in the 1990s. Companies like LG have viewed India as a long-term partner, investing in the market for over 30 years despite early risks. Since entering the country through successful localization, they have firmly maintained a leading position in India's home appliance market. And in October 2025, they even went on public on the Indian Stock Exchange. Today, the partnership is driven largely by economic interest, as Korea faces challenges with traditional partners like the US, China, and Japan. So India has become an increasingly important alternative market and a key engine for growth.
Right. So in both cases, we're seeing not just economic cooperation, but growing cultural familiarity as well. And that naturally brings us to the people at the center of these exchanges. So how many Vietnamese nationals are currently living in Korea, Jian?
Well, I reckon it goes both ways, Koreans visiting Vietnam and also lots of Vietnamese people visit Korea and they settle in Korea. Well, according to the Ministry of Justice, the number of Vietnamese residents in Korea has risen from around 230,000 in 2022 to nearly 330,000 in 2026, an increase of roughly 43% in 4 years. That's significant indeed.
Right.
And this makes them the second largest foreign nationals, foreign groups after Chinese nationals. And this growth is driven by more international students and marriage migrants as well. In fact, Vietnamese students rank first among all foreign students studying in Korea. And this reflects strong motivation of their academics. Well, personally, I made many Vietnamese friends here at university and grad school here in Korea, and I almost felt like I was studying abroad. Well, then why do they choose to study here? Many are initially drawn by K-culture and through Hallyu, of course, but a significant number of people, students, they settle in, they would like to continue their life here after graduation. And in fact, last year, applications for Korea's employment permit system, they actually exceeded the quota by more than 4 times. Well, let me give you the background of this. EPS. It actually allows the Korean companies to legally hire foreigners in labor shortage areas. These areas such as agriculture or manufacturing. So it's quite significant because it supports those companies and labor shortage businesses and also boosts economy at the same time. So Korea is no longer just a place to visit, but a place to build your life for the future.
It's very true. I think for a lot of foreigners, they're drawn by K-pop or different types of Korean culture. But what makes them stay is, like we said, there's the safety. There's so many different aspects that what make them want to stay long term. And the numbers that you mentioned really also highlight how rapidly the Vietnamese community is growing, especially driven by students and long-term residents. And now let's take a look at the Indian community as well. So what does the Indian population here in Korea look like, Kyle?
Yeah, compared to Vietnamese community, the Indian population in Korea is relatively small, but it has been steadily growing over the years. Many Indians in Korea are actually highly educated professionals, particularly in fields like engineering, research, and technology. In addition, there's also a noticeable number of students and business professionals who have come to Korea for academic and economic opportunities. Rather than being concentrated in one sector, the Indian community tends to be spread across specialized and highly skilled industries, often working in global companies, research institutes, and tech-related fields. This process has been driven by government-led efforts to attract Indian talent, which clearly demonstrate how important Korea considers its economic relationship with India.
So it is quite interesting to see how the Indian community, though smaller, plays a key role in specialized sectors such as IT. And together, these communities are becoming an increasingly important part of Korean society. So to gain an in-depth and a more personal perspective on this, we're going to speak with someone from India currently living in Korea. And that conversation is coming up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
And joining us today is Naran from India, who has been living in Korea for around a year. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so what led you to move to Korea, and how would you describe the Indian community here in Korea?
It actually started from a really young age. And to be honest, I'm really proud to say that the love for Korean culture, whether it's K-drama, K-pop, or K-entertainment, it really started from Northeast India, from Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, and to Manipur back in early 2000s. It used to be a very massive part of our family culture. We all would just sit down together and watch K-drama. Seeing that influence grew from my home region to having such a huge impact on mainland India is really amazing, actually. And that early connection is what brought me here. But living here is a bit different from watching it on the screen. When I started, after a few months of living here, I started feeling homesick, and after that, I was lucky enough to find one of my fellow Indian scholars here, and he introduced me to Indian community who live here. All of us just meet up together and we celebrate important holidays. We all are a very diverse group, to be honest, from brilliant researchers to tech professionals and students to entrepreneurs. It's a very beautiful culture, and we celebrate, we eat traditional food together, and to be honest, it feels like a second home to me. And yeah, after hearing President Lee's recent visit to New Delhi, it reminds me that the bond between the two countries will just flourish more and more, and there's still a lot of hope and ways for India and Korea to grow together side by side. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you found a beautiful, strong community around you. So could you tell us what are the advantages of living in Korea, and would you consider settling here for long term?
Yes, Korea is such a safe place, to be honest. I admire how diligently people follow the rules and maintain a sense of order. Living here has a lot of advantages. The biggest one is the convenience. People can use the public transportation, and it's really efficient. And everything you need is actually really close by. So I also appreciate how safe it is for girls to work at night. And on top of that, there are many options for food and culture and also entertainment. It's easy to enjoy your daily life here. Yeah, and for now, as for the future, I am currently focusing on finishing my degree, but I love to stay after my graduation, and want to experience the professional culture and what life is like after, beyond my studies. Yeah.
I see, Narima. It's so glad to hear that you are enjoying your life in Korea. Well, then, what challenges have you faced so far in Korea, and what are some changes that should be made? And the last question should be, what is your favorite Korean drama?
Well, my recent one that I'm watching is Perfect Crown by IU, and IU. Mainly, I watch it for IU. She's my favorite. But for the challenges, as a foreigner who knows a bit of Korean, who knows a little bit Korean, there are still situations like dealing with paperwork and official services, where it can be really difficult to navigate through, and cultural differences can also take some time to adjust to, especially in communication style and expectations in school and work. There's also like hard work culture, which while productive, it can sometimes lead to burnout, and finding authentic vegetarian food. Like some of my best friends here living in South Korea, they are vegetarian, most of them. So it's hard to find a restaurant with a good vegetarian food, but still, we've been like navigating through that too. And it would help if there were more programs and spaces that can encourage the interaction between locals and foreigners, but it's easier to build this connection and feel more integrated. So our culture don't just live side by side, but truly blends in or like harmony. Yeah.
Well, I know it's not easy moving to a different country and building a new life here, but I'm so glad that you have found a community and that you've also are really enjoying yourself here. So, and also I am also watching that drama, and it's pretty good. So, all right, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So we just heard from an Indian national living in Korea about how she came to live here and the advantages and challenges of living in the country. Building on that, life in Korea clearly isn't without its challenges for many people. So what difficulties do foreign residents in Korea face?
Well, Adam has mentioned several difficulties that she's facing here in Korea. The obstacles, yes, they do face some challenges here. According to Statistics Korea, around 30% of foreign residents living in Korea have experienced financial difficulties. Many struggle to afford utility bills, medical treatment, and also face difficulties covering tuition as well for themselves and for their families as well. And language barriers remain one of the biggest hurdles, often limiting access to public services and job opportunities. Most of the Korean websites, some are only in Korean, and the announcements could be just in Korean, not in English. And it's also hard to deal with administrative systems as well, which are complex often to the locals, Koreans as well. And some foreign workers face unstable employment conditions, particularly in labor-intensive industries. We do know that opportunities are growing, things are improving a lot, getting better indeed, but still room to grow.
Right, I mean, documents are hard no matter, even if you're, like you said, even if you're a local, even if you can speak the language, it's so stressful a lot of times. I can imagine how hard it is, as Narim said, about how it's like for foreigners. And so this also highlights how financial pressures can also impact daily life. But beyond finances, workplace conditions are another issue. So what do their working conditions and job satisfaction kind of look like here in Korea?
Okay, great question. About the working conditions for foreign workers in Korea showed a mixed picture. On one hand, a significant number of workers face long working hours, with more than a quarter working over 50 hours per week. I cannot ever imagine. This suggests that many are still exposed to demanding labor conditions. On the other hand, overall job satisfaction is relatively positive. About 68% of foreign workers report being satisfied with their jobs, including aspects like workplace safety, working hours, and wages, with all received satisfaction levels above 60. However, there are still clear challenges. Some workers express a desire to change jobs, mainly due to low pay or physically demanding and risky work environments.
So while satisfaction is relatively high, long hours and tough conditions remain, and that makes practical support all the more important. So what resources can actually help foreigners living in Korea, Juyeon?
Well, I've actually brought some informative and good useful tips
okay.
for foreigners who are living in Korea, so please pay attention, listen closely that is. Well, in practical terms, as we mentioned, language can be the biggest hurdles, especially when it comes to medical care. If you don't speak Korean well, even a simple visit to hospital clinics could be can feel overwhelming. And I've often gone with my foreign friends living in Korea to hospitals in order to interpret their symptoms to the doctor, but not anymore because there is a special app designed just for foreign patients. With these apps, patients can complete medical questionnaires in their own language. It has 12 different languages. I actually counted all of them. Yes. And doctors receive a well-organized, clean version, the translated version in Korean. So it makes communication much more easier and reduces the risks of misunderstanding. And I actually downloaded one for myself, the application, and tried it, and it works very, very well. And the thing is, like, it has a very positive review from the users. 4.9 out of 5 rating. Quite good indeed.
Wow.
You simply need to just enter your symptoms, your birth of date, your sex, and the app uses AI in order to analyze the symptom and guide you to the right place, the department, hospital, clinic, or the chemist or drugstore as well. So making use of these tools can really make a difference in your daily life. So when you are unwell, you can feel lonely. So this app can be your best company.
That app sounds amazing. And there are also, I feel like, a growing number of international hospitals as well that do have a lot of interpreters on hand. So all these kinds of support can make a real difference in everyday situations like healthcare. And employment is another area where help is available. So what other tools are there that help foreigners find jobs in Korea this time?
Yeah, finding a job in a foreign country could be really challenging. I've been there and done that, but Korea definitely has a solution for it. There are several government-supported platforms and programs designed to help foreigners find jobs in Korea. For example, there are online job portals specifically tailored for foreign workers, offering multilingual services and listings from companies open to hiring international talent. In addition, employment support centers provide counseling, resume assistance, and job matching services to help foreigners better navigate the Korean job market. There are also job fairs and networking events organized to connect foreign job seekers with local employers. These tools not only make job searching more accessible, but also help foreigners better understand workplace culture and expectations in Korea.
So these tools can sound like they can really ease the process of settling in professionally and for long term. And finally, on the other hand, for those who are considering a move to Korea, some practical advice would go a long way. So any personal tips for foreigners wanting to live in Korea, Juyeon?
Well, my recommendation would be make the most out of digital tools, from translation apps to map services as well. They can make everyday life much, much easier for you. You can use them to navigate the city, get involved with the community thanks to the language system, and access essential services as well. Once you get used to them, they become second nature, so your mobile's got your back now.
Right. Do you have any other tips?
Yeah, of course. We all know that it's true that K-pop and K-dramas attract many foreign immigrants, but there are many other beautiful aspects besides K-pop and K-dramas. There are so many cultural values in Korea beyond that, such as Chung. It's a culture thing, people quietly caring for one another. It's an unspoken, deep emotional bond that grows over time. And there are also a strong emphasis on respecting elders and showing respect. Also, Korea maintains its traditional values while continuing to innovate and strive for progress at the same time. That mindset also really matters for Koreans. So if you look around, open your eyes just a little bit more and try to embrace these small things, but meaningful aspects of everyday life in Korean society, people will recognize your effort, people will respect you, they will welcome you even more for it. So it's almost like each person is taking a small step towards one another to understand each other. So Korea can become your home.
So as you've seen today, Korea's ties with countries like India and Vietnam go far beyond trade and diplomacy. They're reflected in the people who live and work here. So while challenges remain, these communities continue to shape and enrich Korean society in meaningful ways. And as Korea becomes more global, creating a more inclusive environment will be key to sustaining those connections. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Kyle.
Thank you so much.
And also Juyeon.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this will inspire you to meet a few new foreign neighbors here in Korea today. We are News Generation.